Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 93.
Congratulations, you showed up. Give yourself a high five in celebration of your success. Welcome to the Cashflow Diary, where new and experienced investors come to take confident action towards their goals. Your host is a family man, a real estate entrepreneur, investor, coach, and instructor. As a master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's Cashflow 101 game, he's inspired many to begin their journey into creating cash flow for themselves and their family. And now, here he is to offer you the tools required to earn the income desired. Your cash flow coach, Jay Massey.
All right, and welcome everyone to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I am your host, Jay, and you know what? It is exciting to be just alive, because when you are working towards the things that you actually care about, when your physical work is in alignment with your values, it never feels like a day of work. And I know you guys are out there striving, building your cash flow, making these things happen. And I think you understand exactly what I'm talking about. Today's guest is going to hit that home and give you opportunities to be able to make sure that you have the resources required to go out there and make things happen. We've got some exciting stuff for you today. Now, for those of you joining us for the first time, here's what you may want to do. By the way, the word may in this case means go do this. So I'm telling you to go over to learninvestingnow.com, learninvestingnow.com. Why? Because we've prepared a course sitting there for you to begin your journey when it comes to creating your own cash flow. Yes, we talk a lot about real estate, but we also talk about raising private capital, wholesaling, and a number of other things that will be of great value to you. And all you got to do is go over to learninvestingnow.com. And guess what? I'm going to teach you to learn investing and now.com. So with all that being said, let's talk about today's guest. I'm excited. Hopefully you are too, because oftentimes we can find ourselves in conflict. We believe something, but yet we want to do business and we don't know how to reconcile the two. And we're looking for those resources that can help us begin to make that happen. Today's guest has the ability to help you understand things in a completely different way. I think will help you to be able to make those inroads and move forward. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to give uncommon attention this time. Uncommon attention. This is that attention that you didn't do in biology, that you didn't do in math class. This is that attention that has the ability to actually move you into action, and more importantly, put you in a space to where what you learn today can make a difference, not only in your life, but in the lives of others. Today's guest comes to us from the Joshua House of Worship out there in San Antonio, Texas. Please welcome Mr. Pastor, I should say. There we go. Mel Keyes. How are you doing, sir?
Jay, man, thanks. I tell you, I'm very excited. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be with your audience today on Cashflow Diary. You're an officer and a gentleman, so thanks again.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, one of the things that I often like to do, I always like to start off things very similarly with people, is I look at today's entrepreneurs. And yes, you are a leader. Entrepreneurs lead, and we lead organizations onto goals of many different kinds. And as you lead, your congregation, and as you lead in life, I look at today's entrepreneurs like yesterday's superheroes. Everybody's got that superhero, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, whatever. Some of you out there actually think Aquaman's a superhero. But they all have an origin story. And what we want to know, what I must know, is before you were Pastor Mel Keyes at the Joshua House, I want to know who was Mel Keyes?
Wow. Well, it goes way back to Brooklyn, New York. Bedford-Stuyvesant is the place where I was born and raised until the age of 17. It's a very common story, a boy in the hood, growing up in a single-family home. I was blessed with also being in a household with my grandparents, who I refer to as mother and daddy. And there was a lot of love in that home. But I didn't have a lot of direction as to what I wanted in life and how I was going to get there. I simply had a dream that I couldn't explain at the time. Got a little upset with my mom at one point. She didn't want me to hang out with all the fellows that I was starting to gravitate towards. and I thought that I could make some more of my own decisions, and she showed me otherwise. And I joined the United States Air Force so that I could have more freedom. Can you imagine that?
Okay. Yeah, that's funny.
So I left at the age of 17 for basic training, and lo and behold, I went from the fire into the fire pan of discipline. But it was really, Jay, one of those events that changed the direction of my life. It gave me so much focus that I was lacking, so much discipline that I needed. And I believe it to be the hand of the Lord that was on my life. I had given my life to the Lord as an early teenager, but I needed more than what I was being offered. And in that environment of basic training and staying in the military some 10 years, the concepts of leadership, they were shown to me over and over again as I began to rise up as an NCO and become a military instructor in the realm of leadership for the leadership school. So I picked up some tools, some training that I don't believe that I wouldn't have gotten it back home in Brooklyn. So that started the journey. I got very hungry for leadership, and then that piece turned me into the realm of entrepreneurship. I had a little experience back home. I think every kid in Brooklyn was selling something at one point or another. We used to, and not always the good stuff, of course,
Right.
but thank God I was on the right line with that. But we would go up into the Manhattan area and pick up all the items wholesale, bring them back, sell them retail. That was the basic stuff. Just about everybody I knew was doing something of that sort. But when I got into the military, I ran into some fellas. They got involved with direct sales with a few companies, and these guys were making more money in their part-time direct sales income than they were making as NCOs and officers in the United States Air Force. So they got my attention. And ever since then, I've been hooked. I've been sold on it, and it's been my journey. And, of course, rededicating my life to the Lord in my early 20s. I went on into ministry as a Sunday school teacher. A deacon, became a minister, and I sensed the call of God on my life to pastor. And I got on that road, and God made all the dots cross, all the T's cross, all the dots line up. And there I was, ready to do what he had called me to do in the areas of ministry, entrepreneurship, and leadership.
Nice. Now, first of all, let me tell everyone, I want you to hear something that you made more money, they were earning more money inside of a direct sales company than putting their life on the line with our military. That says two things.
Yes.
One, we clearly don't pay our military enough. And two, direct sales companies or learning to be an entrepreneur or the skill set of building distribution networks and understanding marketing and sales pays an awful lot of money. Those are the two things that I hope everyone heard in that particular thing. Now, the one thing I've got a question for you is, what on earth possesses you to go, hey, I want freedom, so let me go to the military? I have never, I mean, that's not the natural course. I want to be free. I want to do what I want to do. So I know, let me go into one of the most regimented areas of life, period.
Yes, Jay, you've heard the expression, desperate people do desperate things. And I was desperate. I wanted to hang out with the rest of my friends at the time, who unfortunately, sadly to say, most of them are not even alive today. But my mom was literally doing her best to save my life from some of the things that were going on in the hood. Right. I didn't have sense enough to know it at the time, but I thank God that she held the line. So I want to tell all the single mothers out there, hold that line, stand your ground. Don't let them run over you. Do what you have to do to make sure that they respect your household and what it is that you taught them to do. And I thank God that even though I chose to leave, God still had his hand on me, and he was my Heavenly Father from Brooklyn all the way to Texas.
And you know, what's interesting about what you just said in our story is that my mom did a very, very similar thing, except she married a military person and then we moved to Germany. So it's like, well, there's no way to be around them. I'm good now. You know, that's kind of how that worked. Yeah. So I get where she's coming from, and I get that 100%. Now there's a lot of talk about, there's lots of, well, I don't know if the controversy or just murmuring or just how do you because I know this is a question I get from time to time, but how do you reconcile the idea of building cash flow, creating a business, all these things with your faith in the Bible and what it has to say?
Jay, I'll just be honest with you. For at least a decade or a little bit more of my life, I was kind of confused. I was sharing with someone the other day. It was like one of the most schizophrenic experiences that you wouldn't want to be in, because I was torn. I had this passion for ministry. That's my core value. Loving God, loving God's people, reaching out to people to help them to be drawn to the Christ that saved my life. And I believe that that's my primary purpose, my primary passion. Yet there are some other areas in my life that, even though I'm serving in my primary passion and calling, I'm still unfulfilled if I'm not effectively leading, and also unless I'm in the realm of entrepreneurship. That's how he made me. About a year and a half ago, I was in a solitude experience for a few days. I really needed God to speak to my heart, and he gave me exactly what I needed. I did not see it this way before, and ever since then, I had been sold on it. He literally showed me that he had put everything in me. It was for his purpose, his calling in my life, so that I can effectively do what he wanted me to do. And it was ministry, entrepreneurship, and leadership. My name is Melford. That's my whole name. They call me Mel. And when it dawned on me, because it didn't dawn on me at first, I had to write it down to make it plain. And when I wrote it down, Jay, and I saw the first three letters of my name, I literally wept, because for 10 years, I had been struggling with the concept. How do you balance this? How do you reconcile it? How do you juggle it all together? Most people tell you, do one thing. And for me, that wasn't working, because I have a passion in all those three areas. And really, ministry only becomes effective, especially where I'm ministering at, if I can be the right type of leader and if I can economically empower the people that I seek to minister to.
Right. Yes. Now, you just brought up something that is close to my heart. You said economically empower. I want you to expand upon that one for sure.
Well, I'll put it to you like this. Can I talk about church folk for a moment?
Go for it.
Most often the case, I find this to be true. We are so spiritually minded, we become much less earthly good. I'll say it that way. It's been said a whole bunch of different ways. And what I mean by that, we have all these intentions, they're grand, and all these desires, but we don't have the means to pull it off. And one of the reasons we don't have the means to pull it off is because we are so economically disempowered by an employee-only mentality. And as long as we're thinking that way, we don't even line up with the truth of the scriptures, the essence of the scriptures. The people in the Bible, the majority of them by far, were employers rather than employees. They had businesses. They were persons who were, as scripture's own language, the head and not the tail. But we seek in our society, for whatever reasons, it didn't just sneak up on us. We've been this way for a long time, to think that it's just good enough to settle for working for somebody else. And it's great if that's what you want to do, but I believe that you ought to have at least some piece of the pie where you have something that's adding some extra income in your life for your future, for your retirement, or whatever it is that you want to be a part of, whether it's a vacation or, you want to get something without going into debt and credit and all that. Let that economic portion that you're involved with fund that. I believe that with all my heart.
And you know what? There's so many of these principles that you're bringing up that just go into so many different directions of not just, that just go, they extend beyond. And in my, as I continue in business, as I continue to understand these things more, what becomes more and more evident to me is that I feel more useful to society as a whole, the better business owner I become.
Yes.
Have you? Go ahead.
Influence. It's the influence that God gives us as salt and light. We got to have something worth other people wanting to have themselves. If I can't help you, if I can't empower you, why would you want what I have? it's not attractive. Now, I'm not of the belief and the mindset that everybody who's a Christian is going to, live in mansions and have yachts in the front yard. I don't believe all that. I mean, there'll be a few maybe, but not everybody. But what I am saying, our God is so powerful and so abundant in his resources and his care and his love for his children that he wants to put us in a position where we have not just enough for ourselves, but more than enough to be a blessing to other people. If we can't help ourselves, how are you going to help someone else?
You're not. That's at the end of the day. That's what I don't know that you are going to help someone else. And well, let's talk about that for a second, because maybe, how do you put yourself in a position? How did you manage to reconcile these things? Because you said this was going on for 10 years. What can I do? What can someone do who's out there going, man, these two things feel like they're in conflict, because I hear things like money is the root of all evil, and I don't want to be greedy, and I got to be generous, and all these other things. How do we reconcile that and still go out there and become excellent business owners and contributors to society?
Well, you're going to have to do some reading and some research of your own to see, number one, there's nothing new under the sun. This is not a new concept. In fact, as our nation was founded in the United States of America, there was much more of an entrepreneurial spirit then than ever before or since then. And we need to get back to that, to the type of, I believe, the capitalism that's there, not just to make our barns bigger, not just to add cash flow only into our own households and families, but again, to enrich other people. The more prosperous we are, I believe this to be true as well, the more responsibility we have. To whom much is given, much is required. So if I'm blessed, I'm blessed to be a blessing. And I have a responsibility and a mandate on my life to be salt and light in my community. So I need to go and I need to get into the libraries. I need to read. I need to discover. I need to watch YouTube videos that are pertinent to learning the principles, the trades. Everybody is good or even great at something. Right. Find that something, whatever it may be. Become an apprentice under someone who's even better at it than you are. Learn that thing. Iron sharpens iron. Perfect it to the point where you can now do it on your own, and your gift will make room for you. There are hundreds of people, thousands of people just waiting for you to show up with your gift to the world that adds value to them, and they'll pay you for it.
Yeah, you got that right. And that's sometimes we're not taught that when we're smaller or as we grow up. And you mentioned something about apprenticeship. And one of the things that I would love to hear your thoughts on is that I was taught the following process. It was first, you watch me do. So whatever it is, you watch me do it. Then the next step after watching me do is that I want you to do it with me. Let's go arm in arm and figure this thing out, and let's do it with me. And then eventually it's do it alone. Now you go do it. It's your turn. And then after that, it becomes teach another. I find that to be a very effective way of, walking people through the whole real estate thing. I'm kind of curious as to your thoughts on that same thing.
Jay, do you know? Well, I know you know, but here's what it is. This is why that is so effective. Number one, because that was the core principle that our Lord Jesus Christ operated in. I mean, the ultimate example, the ultimate teacher, the ultimate source of truth. He showed us that as a principle and a pattern to follow after even today. And I don't believe it just ties into discipleship. Universally, it ties into everything. I mean, the best fathers, they're best fathers because their job isn't over when they raise their kids. Now they become the grandfather who is helping their son, who's now a father, to become the type of father that he was. So it's always a continuation. So it goes from the watching, and now we're sharing, and now, no, you do it. And we see that in the scriptures when the Lord taught all 12 of his disciples. That's as clear as it gets for me.
Right. And it makes it easier sometimes when you're trying to figure out how to do this. You know, what's interesting to me is I personally, I mean, I don't know what it looks like down there in San Antonio, but you made mention that you felt a special need to be able to work or work with the individuals in a specific way. It wasn't enough for you just to be the overseer in the sense of their souls, but you needed to add more to that. Why do you, where does that come from? And why did you not feel like you were expressing everything that's inside just from, one side of the equation? Because there seems to be this, well, I can't be a Christian and be a business owner idea.
Right. There's, at some levels, what we may refer to as at least an alleged conflict of interest, especially when you're in direct sales and you have any level of responsibility with people. You don't ever want to be one where you can be even perceived to do anything that's advantageous for you and not for the people that you're there to serve, because the Lord teaches us the principles. The greatest is going to be the one who serves, who adds value to other people. So that's very convicting. That's a solid core value that I believe everybody in ministry or seeking to help other people, we ought to abide by that. But holding on to that as truth doesn't mean in the area and the realm of direct sales that that's just something you don't do. It means that you have to do it with full disclosure. You have to do it with true transparency. And you just have to communicate everything as I believe God will have us to communicate. And what I mean by this is there was a time when I was struggling with trying to be a shepherd. I have a congregation that the Lord has given me service over for the past 9 years. It's a congregation of about 150 people. I believe that there's a concept today is false. Not everybody believes it, but the only way you can make a big impact is to be a big congregation, a mega church. I love churches of all shapes, sizes, colors. None of that makes a difference. It's whatever God has given you. But I believe in my DNA that a small church can make a significant difference, an enormous difference. And as a shepherd, that role, the 23rd Psalm might say it best. He leadeth me to green pastures. Well, if I'm going to try to follow after my Lord and lead the people that he's put me to serve into green pastures, that means they're going to a better place. They're going where they can eat. They're going where they can feed their families. How is it that I'm going to be in something that's prospering me and enhancing my life, but I'm not going to share it with anybody else? How is it that I will put myself in a position where I wouldn't want them empowered just like I'm being empowered myself? Some of the best training I've ever received in my life was in the area of direct sales and marketing.
You know, what's funny is I heard someone say once, and I still think this would be interesting to find out, is that is when it comes to being a business owner, that those who believe should strive to be the biggest business owners, because we actually know where to put the money, at least 10% of it all the time. Yeah. I thought that was pretty funny when I heard that, and it's like you're saying similar things. It's like more good would be done if I was in that position to be able to give, as opposed to a position to need to receive. And I hear that. I hear that. So what do you think? I mean, some people are probably wondering, why is Jay talking to a pastor? Well, because anybody can create cash flow when you understand the principles and where they come from. And most importantly, why do you think this divide exists? What gets in the way of most people, regardless, I mean, of what they believe? What do you think gets in the way that prevents them from taking the leap and becoming an entrepreneur?
In the church or in general?
Yes. Either way you want to put that is the question, because I think it's the same thing, but I don't know. I want to hear what you say. All right. For a good number of you, I've got some great news from for you right now, and I think you're going to enjoy it. Yes, you've sent in the email. You're wondering, where is that audiobook? Well, guess what? It's on the way. By on the way, here's what we've decided to do. You've heard me say again, and I say one more time, you only do that which you do best. Do only that which you do best. Hire out the rest. And that doesn't mean you don't do something new. You don't know on those new things if you do it best yet. And you give it your try, you try. And guess what I've learned? Audiobook narration, even your own, is not something that I should be doing. Or more importantly, if you wish to receive the audiobook anytime this year, what we need to do is we need to go in and call in the Calvary, i.e. professionals, and we have done exactly that. Now, good thing is that what we are also going to do is there will be parts of the book, which you will hear me, and there will be some killer bonus content that will only be available inside the audiobook in and of itself, period. So you have no choice there. I'm going to give you even more than you asked for on that one. So that's what's happening. There's the update. Now you know. One more quick thing just to be aware of. For those of you, if you still want to be on the list so that you know, or if you want to go ahead and get the audiobook ahead of time, you do have that ability. You can send a text message. That's right. Send a text message in to area code 949-682-3565. Area code 949-682-3565 would put you on the list to be notified once we're done. Or for those of you who are international nature or internet nature, if you can't send a text to a U.S. phone number, I should tell you, when you send in the text, the keyword is audio, AUDIO, AUDIO to 949-682-3565. If you're international and you can't send a text in with the code word, what you need to do, just go over to cashflowdiary.com/audio, AUDIO. That would also get you on the list so that way you know. Now, many of you know, especially if you were watching recent episodes of Q&A with Jay that we do on Tuesday on the web show, which is awesome. Thank you for those of you who come in and ask questions, that I am headed to Lithuania. Many of you, if you haven't already, go back and listen to the episode with Simon Black, because we talked a lot about his entrepreneurial camp for this year, and that I will be there. Never been to Lithuania, so if you're in Lithuania, come and say hi. I don't know if anyone in Lithuania is listening, but it would be funny if you did. So that would also be awesome. And nonetheless, it's an opportunity to influence some young budding entrepreneurs, if you will, of various ages, and being able to influence them with some of the top entrepreneurs in the world. And I am excited about it. Hopefully you are too. Yeah, I'm sure we'll have some more information to share with you from that. Those of you who follow us on the Facebook page and inside of the membership, etc., you're going to see the updates. All that stuff is coming to you. I'm so glad that I get to go. This is an awesome thing. And I want you guys to be able to go. What does that mean? That means we got to get you back to working on your cash flow. So let's get back to the interview.
Here's my perspective on the church first. The church first, I believe, has bought into this concept. Scripture tells us to study, to show ourselves approved unto God, a workman need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. But many of us, we take so many scriptures, we isolate them, we take them out of context. And one of them we do is we say it's wrong. Money is the root of all evil. Number one, it doesn't say that. Number two, what it does say is the love of money is the root of all evil. And even that you can take out of context. So the thing of it is what is this relationship with God's people to money? Money itself is not evil. Actually, it's neither good or evil. But if you put it in the hands of an evil person, it's going to be used for that. But if you put it in the hand of a righteous person, a generous person, a compassionate person, then that's going to multiply and expand the platform they have to do what it is that they are. We do out of what we are, out of who we are. So if you give a gun to a police officer who's there to serve the people, he's going to use it to protect. But if you give it to some hoodlum that's looking to jack a car, the next car that comes down the street, that's exactly what's going to happen. So with the money thing, we have to, as the church, get out of this concept of thinking, oh, he's rich. He can't be right with God. He's greedy, or he abused or broke the law. You see what I'm saying? And there are too many people in our ignorance who think that to be a Christian, a follower of God, you have to be poor, you have to be broke. None of that stuff is true. That's the thing that I think the church has. And I think in the world there may be some similar things going on, some concepts of that, but not nearly as much. I think that the economy is such maybe where it's moved some people to fear, and they might not call it that, but they're more timid to take risk.
Right.
They're more in a reserve mode of, well, we better hold on because we don't know what. But they got to operate in hope. They got to operate in faith. They got to operate in the risk, because if you don't risk much, you won't get much.
The interesting thing about that is, regardless of what's preventing you, the answer is to hope and believe and have faith in something is going to be better.
Yes.
And you've got to take the appropriate action steps regardless of what that is. And that's the thing that I enjoy about speaking with you, is that you're very action oriented. In fact, I know that you have you go so far as to have a radio show, you've got a book, and there's a special event coming up. Tell us a little bit more about what you are doing to affect these changes in your area. And maybe a few of us can take some license from that and figure out what we might be able to do as well.
Right. Well, one of the first things entrepreneurially that I began to do a few years back is just start reading and discovering more about that realm itself. And right away, I took a leap of faith, and I started a radio station called JoshuaGenerationRadio.org. And anybody can go there. I would love for you to become a part of our listening audience. It's a great, diverse mix of gospel, praise and worship, even gospel rap. It just mixes all the genre of Christian music together. And there's some talk radio involved as well. I love the interviews like we're doing now, because I love interviewing great people like yourself. You've been one of our most recent additions there. So there's a lot of great things that you're here on JoshuaGenerationRadio.org. And we're also looking for sponsors for that. We picked up several along the past 3 years. So that was my first entrepreneurial piece. From there, it was in my heart to write a book. And it got finished in December, finally. I was going to school at the time. So I was, like most people who want to do anything. You can't just wait till the ideal moment. You got to jump in and get it done.
Right.
And finally, in December of last year, I jumped in. I got it done. I had started more than a year ago. And I wrote the book. It's called Hell to the No. And that's KNOW, by the way. And the subtitle is How to Get from the Hell You're Living In to the Life You Were Meant to Live. And it's based upon the principle of Proverbs 29:18. My people perish because of a lack of vision. Without a vision, the people perish. So we got to understand how important, how critical and crucial it is to walk, as you said earlier, by faith and not by sight, and to walk in the vision that God has assigned for our lives. We're here for a purpose. We didn't just pop up and show up out, some people believe that, but I don't believe we just popped up. I believe we're here on an assignment to accomplish something. And as such, when you walk in that vision, or the provision for that vision will begin to show up. So that book talks about that. I think it's a great read. I've been getting great feedback on it. It can be ordered from Hell to the No, that's KNOW.com. You'll get information there. And then right after that, I began to immediately connect the dots for what I had wanted to do some years ago. I just didn't have the space and time to put it all together. So finally, our first conference, I'm doing this not just as a church event, but it's just a kingdom event. It's called the Joshua Generation Kingdompreneurship Conference 2014. It's going to take place in San Antonio on the 12th and the 13th of September. That word itself, kingdompreneurship, it's a mix of people who understand who it is that we represent, who it is that we are as part of God's universal kingdom. Doesn't matter what denomination you're from. None of that stuff matters. What matters is we know to whom much is given, much is required, and we all have much business influence. So we're going to come together and we're going to expand in that bridge work between ministry, entrepreneurship, and leadership. And I am so excited, Jay. Number one, You're coming as one of our keynote speakers and trainers. And of course, you're going to do a phenomenal job, as you always do, on helping people to see and learn about this real estate. I've been thinking about real estate for decades. And now finally, I have someone who's becoming a mentor to give me the training and the people that I have influence with training in that area. So that's going to be a powerful piece. And then we have another brother, Manny Diat. He's a good friend, lives here in San Antonio, author 3 times, working on his 4th, travels the world speaking on the subject of leadership and business. He's done some powerful things, but one of the things that I'm just the most fond of is he recently started an organization called the Ferrari Kids. Here's a man that has had over 40 surgeries on his body since he was a teenager for cancer in his legs. A few years back, 2 years ago, short story, he started an organization called the Ferrari Kids I believe it's .org. Just in case, you might want to check it out and go to .com, just in case I'm wrong on that. But it's called the Ferrari Kids .org. And this group in San Antonio, nonprofit, seeks to minister and to bless and to encourage the kids who are struggling with cancer, and they come from near and far. And last year, he was recognized as the top nonprofit in the city of San Antonio in just 2 years. We have over 1,000 nonprofits here in our city, and he was and that's because of the leadership that he brings to the table. So he's going to be one of our keynote speakers, going to give us training on the nonprofits, how to really do well and not be the type of nonprofit that doesn't make any profit. You know what I mean? So that's going to be powerful. And then,
nonprofit shouldn't mean no profit. I hear what you're saying. Got
it.
That's
exactly right. Don't get it twisted. That's exactly right. And then Lethea Owens out of Missouri. I'm telling you, if there's ever a sister with a shine in her spirit, this is such a woman. She's marked and ranked as the number 8 leading branding strategist in the world. I mean, those accolades have been put on her for a few years. It's just incredible when she opens up her mouth, how much wisdom we gain in the area of marketing and branding. She is she's a general in this thing, and she goes and travels the world helping corporations, Fortune hundreds and 500 companies, but she also works a big deal in the nonprofit area. So she's going to come and bring her expertise to bear on us, and I know it's going to be powerful. And then another great friend I have, he travels the country. He's never home, it seems like, but he's helping Christian organizations invest their money. He's a big money man, and he's recently written his 2nd book called The Wealth Shift, and Sean DeRoe out of Dallas. And I'm telling you, these 4 persons are going to come. They are going to bless our socks off. You're going to be leading us off on that Friday night. They're going to come behind you on Saturday. You speaking again on Saturday. It's going to be epic. Now, I put this together to help raise funds for our congregation. We've been in a relocation process far too long.
Right.
So this event is going to help us to raise funds, but I didn't want to just do a regular fundraiser. I wanted to have something that was going to give more value to the people that we're going to get the funding from.
Right.
So by giving people the value, this event is only going to cost $97, but I assure you that it's worth more than several $100. Easy, $400, $500. I've paid $400 or $500 for these types of events to go to with just one person. So the investment is $97, and they're going to be trained by some of the world's best. And last but not least, I'm so excited because we're going to also get the honor for beloved people. I've already mentioned Manny Diat, the founder of Ferrari Kids, but we're also going to get the honor Tracy Dudley. She's a chaplain in the Houston prison systems. This woman lived on the street. She did everything that you were told not to do as a young lady, and she did it. She 3-time felon, so all of the things caught up with her. But when God got a hold of her life, and she found her purpose, she found her passion, she literally went back to those prisons and began to get other women living on the street and doing the wrong thing and really disciple them. And she's been recognized by Houston in a big way, from the mayor's office to the commissioner. Everybody has known that Tracy Dudley is a powerful young lady out there helping women on the street to get their lives back and to find their purpose. And Tommy Grover out of Dallas, Traffic Stop. She's helping to fight against human trafficking. Have you been seeing all of what's happening in our own country right up under our noses?
Yeah.
I mean, from city to city, it is horrible. And we're hardly saying a word about it. I mean, we talk about everything else, but this is so hush-hush. And it's happening from the highest realms of political office to the lowest places and neighborhoods where you're scared to go in at night. So the thing of it is, here's one of the soldiers, one of the generals who's out there with her megaphone talking about how we can equip our people and our sons and our daughters not to be caught up in that, and how to help protect our communities against those who use human trafficking for profit. And then we have one other brother that we're going to honor on that, Jay, and that's Charles Flowers. He's a brother beloved here in San Antonio, Prince of Preachers, none other than Pastor Charles Flowers. And I love him for his ministry, Faith Outreach International, but I also love him because he's taken so much of his time and his passion in the area of what we call a Christian boot camp. He takes those sons and daughters that we've thrown up our hands about and said, we don't know what to do, we don't know who they are. And he allows them to come into his facility and he trains them. It's an educational system and it's also a discipleship system. And he has been, a few years ago, the governor's office, the president's office. He's been recognized by every office that you can think of for the work that he's done here in San Antonio. And we want to lift up all of their arms, and a good portion of what we're going to do and the funds we're going to raise are going to go to helping them to do what they do better. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I couldn't tell. It's awesome and the thing that I get excited about is as you gain more skill sets, you become more value. And you said it very, very clearly. I've often said to people, you give more in use value than you take in cash value. And many people who've followed me around know the many thousands it usually takes to catch up with me in person. And this is beyond a steal and a deal in that sense. And what gets me excited is that there are so many more people, so many more entrepreneurs out there that are uniting to do good. And you're leading us out there, making these things happen so that we don't just build a business for our sakes. And yes, it enriches our lives, as you said, but we're also out there to enrich the lives of others. And I hope that those listening, those in the San Antonio area, you better be there. And if you feel so inclined, they've got planes there, you got to take a boat, leave now, whatever it takes. Because the information, the individuals, the connections, you wonder, are business people good people? This would be the place to find them. Mm-hmm. This is how you begin to find those relationships that begin to give you ideas that you may not have ever considered. Wow, someone said it to me once or a couple weeks ago. She said, I had never considered the idea of doing well by doing good. And that's pretty much, what we're talking about. And then if you want to find out more about that, clearly, we got to get in contact with you. So tell us how they can figure out more about, everything that's coming up and how can we get more of what it is that you guys have to offer?
Certainly. We have a website, a registration page that's put together under our website for the radio station. The radio website, again, is joshuagenerationradio.org. On that same page is the registration information for the conference. And to register for the conference directly, you can go to jgkconference.com. That's jgkconference.com. You'll see all the necessary information you'll need to find out for the conference. And please, by all means, share it with your friends and your circle. I'm not saying this just because I'm a part of it. I'm saying this because I know it to be true. It will add value to you if you're in the realm of entrepreneurship, leadership, and even, of course, for those who are in ministry.
Indeed. I definitely appreciate the time that you've invested here with us. Now, I want to ask you one last question. If there's a person out there who's in that, remember when you were, years ago, that decade of struggle and you called it schizophrenia, can totally understand that. Or someone who's just on the edge going, should I, shouldn't I? Does cash flow make sense? Does it make sense to go out there and build a business? Can I do it? All of those things that come to each and every person. I'd love to hear what you would have to say to them, knowing what you know today.
I would say, number one, and I say this humbly as I know how, it's not even about us. I'll use the example of a man in the Bible. His name was Joseph. And he went through hell to get to where God wanted him to be. And he had a dream in him. He had a vision in him. And he was hated on by the people that should have loved him the most. But at the end of the story, he looked at those brothers that he had and said, what you meant for evil, God meant for good. And I want to say to someone listening, you have such an opportunity to be blessed if you would step into these cash flow principles. But not just for yourself, because the reality is it's not even about you. It's about being the type of blessing that you can be for the other people who are literally, their lives are counting on you. How many more people who you know and who love you, how many of their lives would be so drastically changed, if not totally transformed, simply because you took the step of faith. You took the risk to do what you already know is in you to do because you've been dreaming about it. I want to challenge you to take that step.
Nice. Thank you for being here today, sir. Now, everyone else, you know what it's time to do. It's time to move at the speed of instruction. You've got a number of different websites to go to, but most importantly, you want to be there in San Antonio. By the way, for those of you who haven't heard, San Antonio, the Spurs won. That's right. They're awesome. So keep that in mind. If for no other reason, you get to at least go possibly take a sneak peek at the NBA trophy. But most importantly, you know that the Kingdompreneurship Conference 2014 is going to be there. Yes, I will be there. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be fun. I promise you this. We will give you more in use value than we take in cash value. But right now, what it's time for you to do is to go grab some value by going over to the radio website, getting registered, and making sure that you're there. I am so glad that you've taken the time to invest today. I look forward to talking to all of you guys again soon. Until next time.
Thank you for investing your time with Jay Massey and the Cash Flow Diary. When you have a moment, please visit iTunes and leave a positive comment about the show. And go now to our website, CashFlowDiary.com, to take advantage of our free business building course, Cash Flow Foundation. Gain the knowledge, understanding, and skill that will teach you how to never need a job again. Until next time.